Hello there. Time to talk about episode 16 of the CW Nancy Drew show. So, because the show jumped right in, I guess I'm going to as well. They picked right back up with where they'd left off with episode 15 after Josh had escaped after being electrocuted in his tussle with Nancy. One thing that stood out right away, it seems strange, I think it was Nick who picked up the charm that Josh had been wearing around his neck that Lucy had given him. It seems strange to me that that fell off. Looking back at the scene between Josh and Nancy, I couldn't really see a way that a necklace would have come like clear off over. The best I could figure was that the charm got pulled directly off of the necklace. So that kind of stood out. Then questioning how Josh is still alive. So I have a couple of theories. The first one that came up is he's possessed. We've got a lot of ghosts going on. We've got spirits in this episode. So I think an evil spirit is using his body for a completely different objective now, potentially. Second option, he was shocked by a low voltage. It just knocked him out. Third option, he is now a super villain and has superhero powers and is out for vengeance. So I'm going to stay tuned and just see what happens there. I'm probably right. We're going to go with that. Yeah. Next, while this was filmed months ago, some of the passing comments that they make kind of seem prescient in the current era of quarantine and that sort of thing. So, for example, Nancy made the comment, almost dying is my new normal. Hopefully we don't come to that, but it kind of feels that way. And then everyone having to skip Harbor Day celebration, with everything being closed down and canceled. It just, I don't know, it was strange to me how connected I felt to all that was going on in the town at the time. Then these Igleka, these seem pretty badass. I like the give and take built into the legend, like the fact that all of them had asked for something in teenager, childhood, whatever, to pass French class, to get a hoverboard, that sort of thing. But then the idea that you have to give something in return for what you ask for. Now, moving forward, when Nancy had the vision of losing her teeth after she confronted Karen about the poison and then had to leave empty-handed, it seemed like they could have been using dream interpretations there. So I know that when you have a dream about your teeth falling out, that can often represent a loss of control. So I wonder if in that situation where Nancy no longer had the control of, following this lead with that evidence, maybe that was an indicator there. Because I'm going to talk more about this later, but Lucy seems really overt in her symbols that she's sending to Nancy. So I don't know if this is maybe representing something more overt, maybe hinting at the end of the episode where Nancy pulls something out of her mouth. I'm not sure. Next, I realize that this is not intended for me as the primary audience, but like I said, some of the clues that Lucy is leaving, they seem really on the nose. So for example, the skeletons in the parking lot meant that Nancy literally needed to get the bones of somebody who's been dead for 20 years. I don't know. I would have taken that to mean that somebody had skeletons in their closet, especially following the conversation that they just had with Ryan's former college roommate. They were asking him if Ryan had any skeletons in his closet. That whole conversation was absolutely hilarious. But I don't know, I just think that it's kind of unclear. And while this show doesn't beat jokes over the head and over-explain them, I do wish that they would approach certain things like this with a bit more subtlety. But then I did get really excited when Bess and George went to the Historical Society. I was quickly disappointed because Hannah was not there. So I'm hoping that wasn't just a one-time thing where she showed up at the end of an episode and we're not going to see her again. She's got to at least make an appearance in the season finale, right? So fingers crossed that Hannah comes back. Next, one thing that stood out to me, and I've sent a message out to my sister who is more or less fluent in sign language and interacts with the deaf community when given the opportunity. But I noticed when they're signing to Ace's dad that they're not signing out the entire sentence that they're saying. So I'm wondering if that's common when you're talking to somebody who reads lips to, just sign out the major words, or that could be an indication just of the fact that they have a rudimentary knowledge of sign language. So I looked it up, and all I could find was something about like signing cues when you're talking to somebody who reads lips. So you would make signs next to your mouth that seem to represent the sound that you're making to help them as they read your lips. But it didn't seem from the Wikipedia page that they would sign the word itself. So I'm going to lean towards the fact that they just have a rudimentary understanding of sign language, but I'll make an update if I hear more on that. Then, if I wasn't totally on board with Nancy, I think that watching her practice an ancient ritual to call spirits to bring her the bones of somebody who's been dead for 20 years would be enough to put me off of her completely. However, I am totally on board with her at this point, so this scene was amazing and creepy and just everything that I wanted out of something like this. Then they took it to the next step, and the part that got even creepier was the next day when Nancy leaned over the sink and pulled the seaweed wreath that was wrapped in the chains out of her mouth. Oh my gosh, it was gruesome and wonderful without going too over the top. Okay, it was a little over the top, but I loved it for it. And on that note, honestly, this episode was great. It was kind of direct and to the point, and I'm very proud of myself for not stopping to talk about all of George's hilarious one-liners and how much I hate Carson. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this one short and sweet, quit while I'm ahead. And on that note, toodaloo, Nancy Drew.